Monday, 9 a.m., you open your work email and see a message from HR. One sentence: your position has been eliminated. Come talk to us. You've worked here for 4 years. You moved across the country for this job. You just bought a house. And now, one email, and it's over. In 2025, American companies laid off 1,170,000 people. That's more than the entire population of San Jose, more than the population of Prague. And this wasn't a recession. It wasn't even a crisis. Officially, GDP was growing, stock markets were at all-time highs, and people were getting thrown out. And 22/6? It got worse. January alone saw the highest number of layoff announcements since 2009. Today, I'm going to tell you a story you won't hear in the typical news cycle. The story of how the world's largest economy learned to grow without people. How artificial intelligence started devouring not factory workers, but the very white-collar professionals who thought they were untouchable. And how millions of Americans discovered that the job listings they were applying to don't actually exist. This is Stonk's Forum, and today we're breaking down the most uncomfortable topic in the American economy. Let's start with the numbers, because when I first started digging into this, I thought the scale was exaggerated. Like, layoffs, whatever, it's America. Someone's always getting fired. No. What's happening right now is not whatever. According to Challenger, Gray and Christmas, the most authoritative research firm tracking layoffs in the United States, between January and November 2025, companies announced the elimination of 1,170,000 jobs, 1.17 million. To put that in perspective, that's a 54% increase over the same period in 2,200. We haven't seen numbers like this since 2002, when COVID was raging. And if you take out the pandemic year, you have to go all the way back to 2009, the Great Recession. But wait, it gets more interesting. Let's look at who was doing the firing. Amazon. October 2025, 14,000 corporate employees gone. Then, January 2026, another 16,000, 30,000 people from a single company in 3 months. CEO Andy Jassy explained it as reducing bureaucracy. Reducing bureaucracy, 30,000 living, breathing human beings, that's bureaucracy. Verizon, 13,000, the largest layoff in the company's entire history. They started notifying workers the week before Thanksgiving. Imagine, you're getting ready for the family dinner, buying the turkey, and you find out that in 2 months, you're unemployed. UPS, 20,000 management positions, plus the closure of 24 facilities in the first half of 2026. A company that delivers packages across the entire country says, we don't need this many people anymore. Dow, the chemical giant, 4,500 jobs. The reason? And I quote, we are shifting toward artificial intelligence and automation. Meta, Nike, Target, Paramount, Peloton, Rivian, General Motors, Citibank, Washington Post, Pinterest, Home Depot, Autodesk. I could keep going for 10 minutes. Since the start of 2025, over 5,000 companies have announced mass layoffs. 5,000 companies. But here's what really grabbed me. Let's talk specifically about the tech sector. According to Crunchbase News, around 127,000 employees at American tech companies lost their jobs in 2010-5. According to TrueUp, the number is even higher, 245,000. The difference is in counting methodology, but the order of magnitude is roughly the same. And now, 2,206. In just the first 41 days of the year, already 35,000 laid off in tech. 856 people per day, every single day. The site layoffs.fyi, which tracks tech layoffs in real time, paints this picture. 264,000. 2023, 165,000. 2024, 153,000. 2025, 124,000 by their count. And already 25,000 in 2026. Do you know what that means? It means the tech industry has been firing people non-stop for 4 straight years. Since 2002, over 700,000 people. 700,000 just in tech, just in the US. And here's the central question we'll be unpacking through this entire video. If the economy is growing, if GDP is hitting records, if the stock market is at all-time highs, then why are people getting thrown out on the street? Here's the paradox that makes economists twitch. Third quarter 2025, United States GDP grew at an annualized rate of 4.4%. That's the best number in 2 years. Consumer spending, strong. Exports, up. Business investment, on the rise. By every macroeconomics textbook, with GDP growth like that, companies should be hiring, not firing. But they're firing at record pace. How is this possible? The answer lies in a term that Morgan Stanley analysts started using in 2025. They called it a rolling recession. And then by mid-year, they rebranded it a rolling recovery. The idea is that the economy doesn't collapse all at once like in a classic downturn. Instead, the recession rolls through individual sectors like a wave. Tech sector? Layoffs started back in 2002 after companies overhired during the COVID boom. Retail? Target slashes 1,800 corporate positions. Media? The Washington Post fires a third of its newsroom. Auto? General Motors lays off 1,100 workers at a Detroit plant because EV demand dropped after the federal tax credit expired. Logistics? UPS and Nike close warehouses. Finance? Citibank continues its plan to cut 20,000 employees. But at the same time, AI companies are booming. Stock prices of Nvidia, Microsoft, Alphabet through the roof. Consumer spending by the top 10% of earners at a record. And here's a stunning statistic that analysts at Goldman Sachs and Bank of America uncovered. The top 10% of Americans by income now account for nearly 50% of all consumer spending in the country. Half. And they're spending like nothing's wrong. Because their salaries are rising, their stocks are rising, their assets are appreciating. And the bottom 50%? They're under increasing financial strain. This is what economists call a K-shaped economy. The letter K because one part of the population goes up and the other goes down. And the gap between them widens every month. EY Parthenon published a full report on this called Signal Lost. They described the situation as a K-shaped, tariff-tinged expansion. Their data shows that growth is increasingly concentrated in AI-related segments, while broader capital expenditure reflects a more cautious tone. But here's what's even more important. And this is the key insight of this entire video. So burn it into your memory. America has learned to grow GDP without creating jobs. It's called jobless growth. Companies increase productivity, automate processes, deploy AI, and produce more output with fewer employees. Glassdoor's 2026 Work-Life Trends report describes a structural shift. Companies are moving away from rare, large-scale layoffs to frequent, smaller ones, 20, 30, 50 people at a time. They call it forever layoffs. Picture this. You work at a company of 1,000 people. Every month, 10 or 20 get let go. Nobody makes a big announcement. Every morning, someone from your team just doesn't log on, and you don't know if you're next. According to Fortune, this creates an atmosphere of constant anxiety. Quote from one researcher, "There's a significant amount of uncertainty and anxiety that workers are feeling around job security and the risk that another layoff might be coming in just a month or two. Workers," he said, "are constantly on edge." All right, before we go any further, and the next part is where things get really wild, I want to ask you for something simple. If what you're hearing right now is interesting to you, if you want to actually understand what's going on in the global economy, instead of just scrolling past headlines, subscribe to Stonk's Forum. Hit the bell so you get notified. And if you know someone who needs to hear this, send them this video. We're not here for clickbait. We're here to break things down. Let's keep going. Okay, let's talk about the elephant in the room. Artificial intelligence. When companies explain why they're cutting headcount, one word keeps coming up over and over. AI. Dow? We're shifting to AI and automation. Amazon? We're getting leaner as AI reshapes how work gets done. Angie, formerly Angie's List? Quote from their SEC filing, "The efficiency gains driven by artificial intelligence are a contributing factor." Pinterest? We're restructuring around an AI-forward strategy. According to Challenger, Gray and Christmas, since 2002-03, employers have explicitly cited artificial intelligence as the reason for over 70,000 layoffs. In 2025 alone, AI-motivated job cuts accounted for roughly 55,000 positions. But here's the twist. NewsNation did an investigation and found that AI-driven layoffs are actually still a minority of total cuts. Most layoffs are attributed to restructuring, business unit closures, and general economic conditions. AI is often used as a convenient explanation, a buzzword for investors. If a company says we're laying off people and deploying AI, its stock goes up. If it says we're just struggling, the stock tanks. But, and this is a big but, just because AI isn't the main driver of layoffs today, doesn't mean it won't be tomorrow. The World Economic Forum, in its Future of Jobs Report 2205, projects that by 2030, approximately 92 million jobs worldwide will be displaced due to technological changes. Yes, 92 million. At the same time, and this is important, an estimated 170 million new jobs are expected to emerge. Net gain, 78 million. Sounds fine, right? No, because the new jobs aren't replacements for the ones that disappear. It's not one-to-one. New positions require different skills, exist in different cities, in different industries. The accountant who just got laid off in Ohio can't simply hop into an AI engineer role in San Francisco. Goldman Sachs estimates that AI could displace around 300 million full-time equivalent jobs globally. McKinsey says generative AI could automate up to 57% of hours worked in the United States. And here's another number that, gave me chills. According to MIT and Boston University, by 2026, meaning right now, AI-driven robotics will have replaced approximately 2 million manufacturing workers. 2 million. But here's the most counterintuitive part. AI threatens most, not the people you'd expect. The conventional wisdom says automation is about robots on assembly lines. But generative AI? It's a different beast entirely. It's best at automating work that involves text, data, and analysis. In other words, office work, white-collar work, customer service, up to 80% automation potential from AI chatbots and voice agents, data entry and clerical roles, millions of jobs at risk by 2027, paralegals, 80% risk of automation by 2026. Legal researchers, 65% by 2027. 23.5% of U.S. companies have already replaced workers with ChatGPT or similar AI tools. Among companies using ChatGPT, 49% say it has replaced human workers. And get this, even the CEO of Anthropic, Dario Amodei, the company that makes Claude one of ChatGPT's main competitors, has stated that by 2026, AI will be able to write essentially all code for software engineers. Think about that. The man who builds AI is telling you, my product will replace programmers. Young people are in the biggest danger zone. Workers aged 18 to 24 are more than twice as likely to fear losing their job to AI. And they're right to worry. Research shows a 13% decline in employment among 2 to 25-year-olds in occupations most exposed to AI automation. And by 2006, an estimated 20% of organizations will use AI to flatten their hierarchies, which means eliminating more than 50% of current middle management positions. Half of middle management. Let that sink in. These are people who spent a decade climbing the corporate ladder, getting promotions, taking on mortgages, planning their futures, and now they're told, thanks, but ChatGPT can do your job. But let's be honest, there is another side to this. The Federal Reserve Bank of Dallas published a study showing that, so far, there is very little statistical evidence that AI is destroying jobs on a massive scale. The pace of labor market change since ChatGPT's launch is somewhat faster than during previous technological disruptions, but not dramatically so. The Yale Budget Lab reached a similar conclusion. The scale of change in the composition of the workforce since November 2022, when ChatGPT was released, doesn't show a sharp acceleration. So, the forecasts are scary, but reality, for now, is softer than the forecasts. Key phrase, for now. Phase 1, 22,003 to 22,005. Task automation, hiring freezes, role compression. Phase 2, 22,006 to 22,008. Career transitions spike, displacement peaks. Phase 3, 2029 to 235, a new equilibrium forms with fewer but more leveraged roles. We're right at the inflection point between Phase 1 and Phase 2. The real fun is just getting started. Shh. But layoffs are only half the problem. The other half? Even more insulting. Imagine, you've been laid off. You update your resume, open LinkedIn, Indeed, Glassdoor, thousands of job listings. On paper, the labor market looks fine. 7 million open positions according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics. Almost as many as there are unemployed people, 1 to 1. Nothing to worry about, right? Wrong. Because a huge chunk of those listings don't actually exist. Ghost jobs. These are job postings that companies put up with zero intention of actually hiring anyone. According to Greenhouse, one of the largest recruiting platforms in the world, between 18 and 22% of all online job listings are fake. 1 in 5. But that's actually the conservative estimate. Live Career surveyed 918 HR professionals in 2,205. The result? 45% of HR managers admitted they regularly post fake job listings. Another 48% said they do it occasionally. Total, 93% of HR professionals are, to some degree, posting jobs they have no intention of filling. Only 2% said they never do it. 2%. Let's do the math. In July 2205, there were 7.18 million open job listings. Subtract the ghost jobs, and the real number drops to somewhere around 5.5 to 6 million. Meanwhile, there were 7.8 million unemployed Americans. That means for every 100 job seekers, there are at best 70 to 85 real positions, not one-to-one as the statistics suggest. A deficit. My Perfect Resume analyzed JOLTS data. That's the official job openings and labor turnover survey from the Department of Labor. They found that in June 2005, 30% of job openings never resulted in a hire. More than 2.2 million roles that just went nowhere. This isn't a new problem. Since 2021, the phantom gap between postings and actual hires has held steady at 28 to 38% every single month. But why? Why do companies post fake job listings? Number 1, just in case. Budgets are frozen, but HR keeps the listing live to be ready. Number 2, image of growth. If a company's careers page shows hundreds of openings, investors think the business is expanding. 68% of recruiters say fake postings have a positive impact on company revenue. Number 3, pressure on existing employees. If you see a listing for your own job title, you're going to work harder. Number 4, resume collection for future pipelines. And number 5, corporate politics. HR departments create the appearance of activity to justify their own budget. A petition on change.org demanding a crackdown on ghost jobs has gathered nearly 50,000 signatures. Some states are starting to respond. Kentucky introduced a bill to ban ghost jobs outright. California passed legislation requiring employers to disclose whether a posting is for an actual vacancy. Ontario, Canada now requires companies to inform applicants about their status in a timely manner. Even at the federal level, the Truth in Job Advertising and Accountability Act was introduced in 2005, requiring employers to disclose intent to hire and salary ranges. But for now, all of this is in the early stages, and millions of people waste hours every day applying to jobs that simply don't exist. You know, behind the numbers, it's easy to forget that every single one represents a real human being. Let's talk about real stories. Michelle Thomas, East Haven, Connecticut. She was laid off from her position as general manager at a dental implant office almost a year ago. Since then, she's applied to 250 jobs. She's gotten 5 interviews. 5 out of 250. Every day she spends 4 to 6 hours searching for work. She's burned through her savings. Her husband still has a job, but she wants to work. Her words: "I'm trying to stay positive. I'm trying not to beat myself up about it. I'm trying to just find any little thing to keep myself motivated and keep myself going." Heidi Roberts, Knoxville, Tennessee. She lost her job and spent months looking for a new one. She finally found one. right before Christmas, but she had to take a pay cut. Her words, "I start January the 5th. New year, new me, so I'm excited." And then she added, "These days, any job feels like a gift. Any job feels like a gift." That's what a woman said in the world's largest economy. According to a survey by career platform Zeti, which polled nearly 1,000 Americans who'd been laid off in the past 2 years, 53% submitted more than 50 applications before landing a new role. 1 in 5 submitted over 100. 30% were unemployed for over 90 days. 62% dipped into their savings and emergency funds. Nearly 1 in 10 had to turn to government assistance, SNAP benefits, food stamps. And even after finding a new job, 62% said they were very concerned that a potential recession could cost them their new position. The anxiety doesn't leave. It stays with you. Jenny Brand, a sociology professor at UCLA who studies the effects of long-term unemployment, says, "When they do find new jobs, those are often at lower quality than the jobs they held previously. Lower wages, worse conditions, maybe lower benefits. And it's not just about money. ZipRecruiter found that after being laid off, people recalibrate their priorities. 60% say job security's become more important to them. 58% say pay matters more. And 30% say career growth has become less important. People are willing to earn less and advance slower, as long as they don't get fired again." Now consider this. 30% of parents had to pull their children out of childcare after their layoff. Not because they found a better option, because they couldn't afford it anymore. And here's one more fact that, shook me. 8% of laid-off workers haven't told anyone about it. Not a single person, not even family. They just pretend to go to work every day. Look, I know this is heavy, but that's exactly why we need to talk about it. If you've made it this far, you're in the top 10% of viewers who actually want to understand the economy, not just scroll past it. Hit that like button. It genuinely helps push this video to more people. And drop a comment. Have you or someone you know been through a layoff? What was the experience like? I'm genuinely curious. Let's keep going. There are several powerful forces that are making everything worse. Force number 1, tariffs. The Trump administration imposed sweeping tariffs on imports. According to Deloitte, higher tariffs and interest rates are restraining growth in business investment. Companies absorb part of the cost themselves, eating into profits, and pass the rest to consumers. Prices go up, consumer confidence drops, demand slows, and companies decide, you know what, let's just fire some more people. The Yale Budget Lab estimates that tariffs will bring in about $2.5 trillion in revenue over the next decade. But they also create uncertainty that paralyzes hiring. When a company doesn't know what the tariff rate will be in 3 months, it's not going to bring on new staff. Force number 2, the 43-day government shutdown. In the fall of 2205, the U.S. government was shut down for 43 days, the longest shutdown in history. According to EY, its direct impact on GDP was minus 0.1 to 0.2%. But the indirect consequences are far more significant. The Bureau of Labor Statistics stopped publishing data. The Bureau of Economic Analysis delayed its GDP report. Economists, the Fed, investors, everyone was flying blind. And the shutdown also led to mass layoffs within the federal government itself. The Deferred Resignation Program resulted in tens of thousands of government employees leaving their posts. Combined with DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency, Initiatives roughly 280,000 people left government agencies in 2025. And all of those people entered a job market that was already crowded. Force number 3, immigration policy. Tighter immigration policy reduces the inflow of workers, and labor supply is the fuel for economic growth. According to the Congressional Budget Office, in recent years, the labor force grew at roughly 0.9% per year, mostly from immigration. If that flow stops, growth slows. One analysis showed that fully implementing the administration's immigration promises could cost the economy 1.2 million jobs. Force number 4, healthcare. After Republicans declined to extend Affordable Care Act subsidies, an estimated 20 million Americans saw their insurance premiums roughly double starting January 2026. This hit households that were already barely staying afloat. When your insurance just doubled, groceries are more expensive, and you just got laid off. That's a perfect storm. You know what's different compared to previous downturns? The way people are reacting. In 2008, when people got laid off, they felt ashamed. They hid it. They thought it was their fault. In 2020, during COVID, there was more understanding. You know, pandemic, what can you do? In 2023, after the Great Resignation era, people started openly talking about job loss on LinkedIn. It became a kind of normalization. But in 2025, something else shifted. People are angry. CNBC published a major piece with the headline, "People are really angry." A wide shift around layoffs is happening across the workforce. As one researcher put it, underneath the shame, I think, is this righteous anger. A young journalist named Melanie Ehrenkranz, who was laid off in 2003, started a Substack newsletter called Laid Off. Every week, she publishes an interview with someone who just lost their job. One subject recounted being fired on his 26th birthday. Another found out she'd been let go while vacationing in Mexico when she got locked out of her work systems. Laid Off now has over 6,000 subscribers. A paid Discord channel has more than 700 people sharing layoff horror stories and job market tips. Ehrenkranz says, "Getting laid off has become a pretty universal experience. There isn't an industry out there that's safe." And here's what else has changed. People are starting to rethink the very concept of a career. According to Glassdoor, the balance of power in the labor market has shifted back to employers. Remote and hybrid employees are increasingly finding that their career prospects are worse than those of people who show up to the office. Promotions go to people who are physically near the boss, and remote workers are forced to choose flexibility or stability. On LinkedIn, it's become almost impossible to scroll without seeing posts from people with open to work banners. It's so widespread that it's lost its stigma, but it's also become a symbol of an entire generation's anxiety. More and more laid-off workers are asking, is it really true that if you work hard, you'll succeed? In the words of one community member, when you're competing with all of these people laid off at the same job, it does make you start to question whether the traditional stories you're told of working hard to get XYZ are actually true. And more people are looking for alternatives. Freelancing, starting their own business, side hustles, career pivots. Some are enrolling in IT boot camps. Some are learning AI skills. Others are leaving white-collar work for blue-collar trades, construction, plumbing, electrical work, where, ironically, demand is strong. Okay, we've laid out the situation. It's not pretty, but what's next? Here's what the analysts are saying. Deloitte projects GDP growth of about 2.2% in 2000-2006, a slowdown compared to 2005. Why? Inflation that remains above the Fed's target. Tariffs gradually weighing on prices. Business investment will stay relatively strong, mainly thanks to AI. But the Fed is unlikely to cut rates until the end of 2200. EY forecasts growth of just 1.9% in 2026, an even more modest outlook. They emphasize the drag from tariffs and tighter immigration policy. The labor market, unemployment climbed to 4.6% by November 2025, a four-year high. The Fed expects it to keep rising. The hiring rate has slowed to levels not seen since 2013 and 2020. And layoffs? January 2026 saw the highest number of layoff announcements since 2009. And that's just January. But there are positive signals too. Healthcare continues to grow. 44,000 jobs added in January 2025 alone. Construction is strong. Clean energy is booming. In fields where you need human hands, there's a shortage. AI is creating new professions. AI trainers, AI ethicists, prompt engineers, AI operations specialists. Professionals with AI skills command salaries up to 56% higher than peers in identical roles without those skills. 75% of U.S. employers say upskilling and reskilling are their top priority. So no, this isn't the apocalypse, but it is a fundamental inflection point, after which the labor market will never be the same. Let's bring it all together, because over the past 70-some minutes, we covered a lot, and I want you to walk away with a crystal clear picture. Number one, the scale of layoffs is historic, 1.17 million in 2025 alone, the most since the pandemic. Thousands of companies, every industry. Number two, the economy is growing, but it's growing without people. GDP up, profits up, stocks up, and jobs are disappearing. AK-shaped economy. The rich get richer, everyone else scrambles to survive. Number three, AI is not the main driver of layoffs, yet. But the projections for the next 5 years are terrifying. 92 million jobs displaced globally by 2030. Up to 57% of U.S. work hours could be automated. Number four, the job market is poisoned by ghost jobs. 1 in 5 listings is fake. Companies post them for optics, for resume harvesting, and to pressure existing employees. Number 5. Behind the numbers are real human beings who spend months job hunting, burn through savings, go into debt, and lose faith in the idea that if you work hard, everything will be fine. Number 6. Tariffs. The government shutdown, immigration crackdowns, rising healthcare costs, they all combine to create a perfect storm that makes every layoff more painful. Number 7, forever layoffs, perpetual job cuts are the new normal. Not one-off crises, constant background level pressure. So what do you do about it? I'm not going to give you a motivational lecture about learn Python and you'll be fine. But here's what I will say. The world is changing. That's a fact. AI isn't going away. Automation isn't stopping. And hoping that my profession definitely won't be affected is a dangerous illusion. The best strategy is adaptability. Not one specific skill, but the ability to learn new things quickly. The people who survived previous technological revolutions, from the steam engine to the internet, weren't the ones who resisted change. They were the ones who embraced it before everyone else. And one more thing. If you or someone you know is going through a layoff right now, know this: it is not your fault. You are not to blame for a CEO deciding to automate your department. You are not responsible for tariffs, government shutdowns, and AI. This is a systemic problem, not a personal failure. Thank you for sticking with me to the end. This was probably one of the most complex and in-depth videos I've ever made for Stocks Forum. And your feedback genuinely matters to me. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Hit like. It takes 1 second, but for the algorithm, it means this video gets shown to more people who need to see it. And drop a comment below. Tell me what you think. Maybe you see things differently. Maybe I missed something. I want to hear it. If you want to understand the economy on a deeper level, not just headline level, Stocks Forum is your channel. We're not here for clickbait. We're here to understand. See you in the next